Welcome back. Now, Nigeria's economy, though out of recession, has continued to experience slow growth. Companies have continued to record losses despite some of the measures by the federal government to improve ease of doing business. As the country gears up for another general elections, the need to address some of the constraints and imbalances in the economy becomes paramount. And joining me to discuss this is the CEO of financial derivatives company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. Mr. Rewane, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, looking at some of the earnings released recently, most of the companies are underperforming, particularly the FMCGs. Now, what would you say are the major bottlenecks corporates such as FMCGs are, facing that are limiting financial performance?
The constraints are known. They are over-labored and documented. The reality is that there's the infrastructure constraints, which we all know. But some of them are self-inflicted constraints. Take, for example, the Apapa gridlock. Take, for example, the cost of funding. And take, for example, the low productivity. So all of these things, but more than anything else, Vyodo Adetukwe just talked about the MTF and the role of government and budget for signaling. But more important is that in the national income identity equation, you have government expenditure, but the most important component at this point in time is investment. Total investment in Nigeria is about $65 billion. It's less than maybe 20% of, in fact, about 17% of the total GDP. Typically, that level should be at about 30, 40%. So what we need to do is like double the $60 billion. Investment is a function of confidence and a function of the environment. Confidence is weak, therefore investment is low. And if investment is low, gross capital formation is also low, and productivity will be low. In other words, what we need to be doing is, what are the things that we need to do to encourage investments? What are the things that we need to do to make sure that investors are comfortable putting their money here?
So can you reel out some of those things that government really needs to do to encourage investment?
It's not just government. There are three components of investment. There's government investment, there's international investment, there's domestic investment, in fact, there's diaspora investment. Now, if your locals, if the domestic investors are not comfortable, they take money out, that's called capital flight. The international investors are also wary about political times like we are in. So we need to be sure that that's the goal. A combative regulatory environment, right? An extortionary regulatory environment and policymaking environment is what kills investment. And investors are not interested in what you say, because every day I hear everybody saying, we are doing this enabling environment.
They want to see.
It's fatigue. What you do is more important than what you say. What you are doing could be combative. What you are doing could be destructive, while what you are saying is creative, right? So the signaling is, we just talked about an exchange rate of 305. That's a joke. There's nobody in this country, apart from the pilgrims who are going to Israel or Mecca, who are buying money at 305.
Dr. Adedipe say that that's a signal that the government has no intention.
It's the most negative signal
you
can ever give. The market rate is 363, 64. That's the investor export window. That is what everybody is using. So why do you talk about 305? Why do you live in a fool's paradise? The truth is that the exchange rate is an effective exchange rate. Nobody announces an exchange of 305 and then effectively you're saying it's 360. That's a joke. Those are the things that actually put investors off. So you got to be honest and you got to be, dispassionate about it. The truth is the truth. Everybody knows it. So now, what do we need to do? Let's go back to one of the products. We're talking about flour. The price of wheat has gone up by almost 30% in the last maybe year or 18 months. But the price of wheat flour in Nigeria has gone up 10%. The result is that, and the exchange rate has moved, now positively, and they have the availability of foreign exchange. Good news. But the reality is that, look, Flour Mills of Nigeria has shown a 10% drop in revenue and a 15% drop in PBT. Honeywell, 2%, 3% drop in revenue and 83% drop in profit. Everybody is suffering this, but the problem is that there's low purchasing power You know, we haven't done the minimum wage review for the past 8, 9 years. There's low purchasing power. There's drop in productivity and growth. You know, there's high interest rate environment. So people are confronted with all of these things. And therefore, you need to do something dramatic. The cost of the Apapa gridlock is about 2 billion naira a day, whilst the cost of the subsidy is about 4 billion naira a day. If you add those two together, 6 billion naira, in fact, that is 50% of the budget of Nigeria. If you just deal with those constraints of Apapa gridlock and the subsidy, deal with it, then 50% of your budget is solved.
Talking about this Apapa gridlock, how do you think the government can go about it in correcting the anomalies there?
Well, first of all, you have to encourage the guys who have a skin in the game. Dangote Group, for example, have a refinery. So if 40% of the trucks are going to Apapa are going for petroleum products, you have a pipeline. If you have a pipeline, then you stop that so that people can. Then more importantly is that you improve Calabar, Port Harcourt, and all. The road between Calabar and upcountry, the road between Port Harcourt and Enugu, the road between Forcados, not Forcados, Warri, Sapele, and all these ports. We have all of these ports, but only one port, or two ports actually, Tinkan Island and Apapa, as you know, servicing the whole of the country. So you've got to fix the roads. You've got to fix the rails, which is some of the things the government is doing or intends to do. Then you begin to see the effect, but it takes time. And you've got to send the right signal. You've got to encourage people to invest in those areas. They're not going to do it for free. These guys are not philanthropists.
Yeah, with Dangote already having a stake in Apapa and
Yes.
Tinkan Port, and of course a major investor in refineries, do you think that would help? And what kind of incentive do you think they need?
The incentives are that you give them tax breaks, you give them all the things that are necessary. It's not just Dangote, they are all of them, but Dangote is a leading investor in this area. He has more, what you call value at risk, he has more to lose because he's invested over $12 billion in this. And basically, the refineries have a hub, not only refining products, fast-moving consumer goods, flour, because the guys in the flour business are losing money by going to bed. So you've got to do something about it to ensure that, one, you reduce smuggling, two, you give them the impetus so that they can get their things out in time. And then the logistics of moving flour, the cost of moving flour from one part of the country to the other is significant. And bread is a very, very important staple for people. It's not only pasta, you know, and all the other flour-related products, pasta, noodles, and all. There's so much involved in that. And the behavioral patterns of the younger generation, millennial generation, they take noodles, they take pasta, they don't take the regular things. So they're moving and shifting. So we got to be ahead of the game to ensure that we keep them.
Now, in your own opinion, what are the top 3 investment policies that can be implemented to drive this much-needed growth?
First of all, reduce the multiple taxes. Secondly, ensure that whoever is investing in infrastructure, right, jointly with government, is given a massive investment credit and a break. And then finally, right, you carry them along, right, with you all along. So don't make decisions. And then sanctity of contract. What happened to MTN? It was a thing that scared everybody, right? So there needs to be predictability. It's not just, there's already volatility of price. If you had conflict of interest and then you had unpredictability and instability, then all investors are going to run away. We have elections, we have all sorts of things, so people don't know. So you've got to encourage those investors who are going to be here for the long haul, who have taken a stake in this business, right, in this country. So you see Lafarge and all the others, they've been around for a long time, but some Nigerian investors are investing significantly in this.
All right. While some of these companies, like the FMCGs, as you said, continue to suffer, you know, due to the hard economic policies. Now, according to AfroInvest Banking Sector Review, the banking sector remains resilient. What is your assessment of the current health of the banking system?
Yes, AfroInvest is quite optimistic. I'm more cautiously optimistic. The banking system has difficulties, right? But fortunately, the central bank, the NDIC, AMCON, seem to be on top of the game in terms of making sure that capitalization, capital adequacy, liquidity, and all that. So they are being very proactive. In fact, maybe too proactive. But that's good for the system. But what you must take into consideration is that the last thing you need after a recession and slow growth is financial systemic instability. And therefore, what do you need to do to ensure that, one, whatever risks in the system are contained, and secondly, they're isolated so that there's no contagion. That's important. So I say, yes, the system, capital adequacy ratios are at about 15, 16. If you take away some of the troubled institutions, then it comes down to 11, if you add in troubled institutions. But if there are no troubled institutions, then they're about 15, 16. The NPLs are relatively high, but,
Now, if the banking system remains resilient, do you think it was the right decision to revoke the banking license of Skybank?
Well, we've got to step back a little bit. What was the purpose of that move? One is to isolate what was a potential problem. The bank, that is Skybank, and the banking system had 4 particular problems. First problem was a problem of governance, crisis of governance, crisis of liquidity, crisis of confidence, and also a crisis of solvency. So what did the central bank and the bridge bank formula? First of all, the central bank changed the management and put a new seasoned hands to run the place. I know MK Ahmad very well. We've come a long way. Tokumba Biro, the guy there. These are a safe pair of hands. That gave confidence. Secondly, the central bank put in about 370 billion naira as liquidity, a bridge liquidity fund there, right? So, just to give liquidity, right? So the governance put a new board, put in liquidity, and restored confidence. Then the solvency issue. The market capitalization of that company was about, say, 11 billion naira. The amount of money the central bank has put in was 300 and something. The requirement is almost 800 billion. So let's face it. What was the alternative? Allow the bank go to the wall? They have 8,000 employees. The EIU says that every household in Nigeria has about 5 occupants. So if you multiply 5 by 8,000, you have 40,000 people directly and indirectly affected if you fire all of them, right? Now, the total assets of this bank is 1.5 trillion, about 4% of total assets of the system, systemically important. Their deposits are 958 billion. It's about 5% of total deposits. 19.38 is total trillion is total deposits. So the disruptive effect of allowing a disorganized exit of one player would have affected everybody.
So what would have happened if
it would have been a disaster.
Intervene?
It would have been a disaster. So what you see now is what you can call a near miss. You know what, that kind of thing. What you ask yourself, what would have happened if this car had crashed and everybody died? Or we missed, somebody salvaged you and you got across. So it's easy to say it after that this is what happened, but the cost of doing nothing, 1. 2, the cost of doing the wrong thing, and now the benefit of doing the right thing. That's what you have.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Rewane.
Thank you.
Mr. Bismarck Rewane is the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company. We'll take another break, and when we come back, the Nigerian Stock Exchange prepares to host the 22nd ASEA Conference. Just stay with us.